Okay, have you ever had that weird feeling like you're not totally in control? Now, what if that feeling wasn't just, in your head? What if it was your actual hand? A hand that just starts moving, grabbing things, acting like it's got a will of its own. Well, today, we are diving deep into one of the most bizarre conditions in all of neurology, alien hand syndrome.
You've probably seen a version of this, even if you didn't know what it was. Remember Stanley Kubrick's classic Dr. Strangelove? The main character is in this constant battle with his own right arm, which just keeps trying to give a Nazi salute or even attack him. And yeah, in the movie it's played for some pretty dark comedy, but the reality behind it? Well, that's a seriously puzzling medical condition. And believe me, for the people who actually experience this, it is not a joke. Take this real case, for example. A woman's own left hand basically turned on her. It was doing all these complex, sometimes even dangerous things, and she had absolutely no say in it. She actually had to use her healthy hand just to physically hold her alien hand back.
I mean, check this out. It's a perfect example of what doctors call intermanual conflict. It's like her two hands are literally at war with each other. It's as if two different minds are trying to drive the same body. Her conscious self wants a cigarette, but her alien hand? Nope, it has other plans, and it's not afraid to act on them.
This one really paints a picture of the core problem, right? A total breakdown of unified action. I mean, can you imagine trying to get dressed in the morning, and while one hand is buttoning your shirt, the other one is following right behind, unbuttoning it? It's just a completely frustrating, profound loss of control. Okay, so let's put an official name to this whole phenomenon. It's called alien hand syndrome, or AHS, and it's basically a neurological condition where a person's limbs starts performing what look like purposeful actions, but they feel zero sense of control or intention. And that's the key thing. The hand isn't just twitching or spasming, it's acting, and the person feels like they're just a spectator watching it happen.
All right, so the million-dollar question. How on earth does something like this even happen? Well, to figure out why the hand is rebelling, we've got to look at the brain that's supposed to be in charge. And this whole story, it really begins with a brain that's divided.
So, it all starts with the two halves of our brain, the hemispheres, right? And you've probably heard this before. Generally speaking, your left hemisphere controls the right side of your body, and it's big on things like language and logic. Meanwhile, the right hemisphere controls the left side of your body and handles more spatial, nonverbal stuff. Think of them like two specialists on a team. They each have their own job, but for anything to get done right, they absolutely have to work together.
And the way they do that, the way they talk to each other, is through this amazing structure called the corpus callosum. The best way to think about it is like a giant, super fast internet cable connecting the two halves of your brain. It lets them zip information back and forth and coordinate everything they do so that you act like one single unified person.
So, that leads to a pretty crucial question, doesn't it? What happens when that communication superhighway gets damaged, or even cut? What happens when those two sides of the brain just can't talk to each other anymore?
Well, this kind of disconnection can happen for a few different reasons. Sometimes, believe it or not, it's done on purpose. In really severe cases of epilepsy, surgeons might actually sever the corpus callosum to keep seizures from spreading across the whole brain. But, much more often, the damage comes from something like a stroke, a tumor, an aneurysm, or some kind of infection that messes up this critical communication link.
And what this damage creates is this profound disentanglement between your thoughts and your actions. The left hemisphere, the one that handles language, might be planning to do one thing, but it has absolutely no idea what the nonverbal right hemisphere is telling the left hand to do. Essentially, each half of the brain starts acting like its own separate agent, giving out its own orders.
And here's where it gets even more interesting. It turns out not all alien hands are created equal. They don't all behave the same way. Depending on exactly where in the brain the damage is, you get different flavors of the syndrome. You could almost say each one has its own unique personality.
So neurologists have basically broken it down into three main types. First up is the callosal variant. This is when the damage is mostly to that corpus callosum we were talking about, and that's what causes that classic intermanual conflict, the hands literally working against each other. Then you've got the frontal variant, from damage to the frontal lobe. This is the one where the hand gets really grabby, impulsively grasping onto things and then having a really hard time letting go. And finally, there's the posterior variant. This comes from damage to the back of the brain, and it can cause some really strange behaviors, like the hand just sort of levitating on its own.
All of this brings up a really fascinating question that we almost never think about. How does your brain know that you are the one moving your own body?
right? When you reach for your coffee, you don't stop and wonder, hey, was that me? You just know it was you. But how?
Well, it turns out it's this brilliant four-step process. So step 1, your brain plans a movement. I'm going to pick up that pen. Step 2, and this is the absolute key, it sends a little memo to itself. It's called an efference copy, and it's basically a message that says, hey, just so you know, I'm about to move the hand. Then, step 3, the motor cortex actually makes the hand move. And finally, step 4, the sensory feedback from the hand moving matches that memo, and your brain goes, yep, checks out, that was me.
Okay, so with alien hand syndrome, here's what goes wrong. That confirmation memo gets lost. Because of the brain damage, it just never arrives. So the conscious part of your brain sees your hand moving, but it checks its inbox and there's no record of it ever ordering that move. So what's the only logical conclusion it can come to? Well, I didn't do it, so someone else must be.
Okay, so if your own hand has pretty much become a rogue agent, how in the world do you live with that? I mean, is there any way to make peace with this stranger that's literally a part of you?
So let's be really clear about this. Right now, there is no cure for alien hand syndrome. But, and this is a big but, that does not mean patients are helpless. Over the years, people have developed some incredibly clever and kind of amazing strategies to manage their wayward limbs. A lot of the time, the simplest strategy is just to give the hand a job. Make it hold a cane or a bag. It just keeps it occupied. Some patients go a different route and actually personify the hand. They'll give it a name, like Baby Joseph, and then scold it when it misbehaves. And then, of course, there's physical restraint, which can be as simple as wedging it between your legs or putting an oven mitt on it to stop it from grabbing everything.
And there is a lot of hope here. For many patients, especially if the brain injury isn't too severe, the symptoms can actually fade away, often within about a year. It's all thanks to the brain's incredible ability to adapt, something we call neuroplasticity. It allows the brain to literally rewire itself, build new connections, and slowly but surely restore those lines of communication and control.
Look, alien hand syndrome is incredibly rare. But what it reveals about the rest of us, about how a normal brain works, that's profound. It really forces us to step back and ask a very fundamental question. Who or what is actually in the driver's seat? I mean, listen to this. This is from the very first documented case, way back in 1908. Dr. Kurt Goldstein was describing his patient's total confusion. She insisted someone else was moving her hand. She knew it was her hand, but she was absolutely certain that she wasn't the one moving it. And that feeling, that sense of a will that isn't your own, has been at the very heart of this mystery for over a century. When you really think about it, what this all shows us is that our sense of being a single, unified self, being completely in command of our bodies, that's a fragile thing. It's a complex and frankly beautiful illusion that our brain works very hard to create. Alien hand syndrome just pulls back the curtain and shows us the wiring. And that leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought, doesn't it? This incredibly rare condition proves that parts of our brain can cook up complex, purposeful actions without any input from us, our conscious self. So, if you are not the sole author of everything your body does, then who exactly are you?